Hi, Sarah.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Are you still on vacation? Or are you back in
No, I'm back.
you're back.
Yes. It was hard to come back. It was just a little 3-day weekend with my husband.
Nice. It looked
Yeah,
fun.
it was good.
I saw some big boulders in the background.
Yeah, we didn't leave the resort once, which is not our normal speed, but I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that you could start your week here with us after Labor Day weekend to talk about the Stand Tall AFC campaign. And I'm really excited to have you with us this year because this is the first year, well, this is our second year, and it's our first year having women who might or men who might not be flat after mastectomy but are supporting aesthetic flat closure as a healthy option for those that do face mastectomy. So I really, your support is really unique and interesting, and like I said, it's like the way we're rolling out this year. It's not just Women Who's Flat, it's like all of our support team, which means so much to us. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about like how you heard about Stand Tall and why you decided to get involved.
Definitely. So I had a little bit of a roundabout journey from most people that are part of Stand Tall. My mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2014. It was 2 weeks after I had had my youngest daughter, and there was just so much emotion happening in the moment and going through that process with her. And they said, based on the aggressiveness of her cancer, she was only 64 at the time, that it was more than likely genetic, because she had started an aggressive chemo treatment immediately after her surgery. They said that it wasn't wise to do genetic testing at that time. I don't really understand enough about it, but I could get tested and that they would advise it just based on my history and her history and everything. So went in, got tested, and immediately went and met with an oncologist about doing a prophylactic hysterectomy as well as a mastectomy. And I, at the time, didn't know any better. And the oncologist talked to me about different options and said, we'll wait till the results come back, but this is what I would advise. This is the direction I would go. And I had implants placed cosmetically prior to that in 2013. And I just said, listen, I don't need them. I don't need my breast anymore. And so I would go that route. And he just was so appalled that I would choose that direction. Like I said, at the time, I didn't know any better. Fast forward to last October, I was in Atlanta at the plastic surgery, the ASPS meeting. I met you and I met Kimberly Bowles, and hearing your stories about the decisions that you guys had to make and the pushback that so many women get. Being in this space already as a breast implant advocate, I was just disgusted. I reached out to Kimberly shortly after that and was asking her about her New York legislation that she was passing. And it's like, why is this not on the menu at all? That this is not even an option for women, and that it was never discussed with me. I was looked at like I was crazy for even thinking of the idea. And I just can't sit back and let it happen to so many women. I was already doing so much in the space for breast implant safety. And it's like, hey, I'm already here. I'm already doing this. And women need to know about this and be informed. I'm connected with several organizations on my side. It's like, why would I not also be talking about this? Because down the road, it's a decision that I'll have to cross over at some point. And it just should never even be a question. Women are aware of the risks and the images that they see of themselves. And if that's the decision they make, then it should be a decision that is accepted and opened and discussed with their doctors. So that's how I got
Oh,
involved.
wow. That's really fascinating to me. Like it's almost like that, given your mother's diagnosis, that you had all your information up front. So you're like, you're going to prepare for informed consent and then
Mhm.
learning brought you to us, brought you to just not just stand tall, but aesthetic flat closure and the movement to put flat on the menu and to have it presented neutrally. We don't need doctors to go gung-ho and like, this is for you. We don't need that. We just need it to be presented in a neutral fashion as our implants or deep flap or any of the other flaps that get presented to women. So I thank you for that. It's really powerful to have somebody that's so informed like yourself to be walking with us. So.
Well, I get so emotional about it. And for somebody who didn't have to go through what many of the women and men in the Stand Tall organization had to go through, it's kind of a weird reaction because I am so emotional about it, but it makes me so mad. I'm just so angry that it's not a discussion for people. So that's kind of where I got my momentum.
Right? In the year 2022, that women are still shamed for looking different after treating breast cancer is shocking. It's shocking that you want that women, that there's a part of the culture, not all of it, part of it it kind of demands that women suffer more so that they can look, their looks can make people feel comfortable, as opposed to the patient feeling comfortable. I mean, people, struggling with chemo and radiation, hormone suppression, and or like me, just my body I was so sick from my implants that I had to get them out. Like I shouldn't suffer a minute more than I have to. So anyway, it's just to have the circle get bigger. It started in the flat movement, and to have, I think you may have watched Derek's interview, who walked with us in New York City last year, to have him speak and talk about the shame and the shock and the grief that men go through losing a breast. Mm-hmm. It was just really insightful. So I think as our circle gets bigger, it's really powerful, and that this will be on the table in the future. We're normalizing this now so that when people go in the future, it'll be like, well, here's your options: flat, foob, flap. You got these kind of options here. And they're coming up with new stuff all the time. There's fat grafting that doesn't require flap. So, really interesting stuff. But going back to the campaign, will you tell us where your walk is and who's walking with you?
Definitely. So I am doing the Komen Walk, and it is More Than Pink is the name of the Komen Walk in Rogers, Arkansas, which I'm really grateful that they put that out there, just because all the stigma that pink kind of has for women that are going through breast cancer treatment or preventative mastectomies, seeing all this pink everywhere, it just kind of can be overwhelming from many of the women I've spoken to about this. So I really like that they've named their walk More Than Pink. The walk is happening on October 8th, which is the day before my wedding anniversary. So an easy date for me to remember. The registration starts at 7 a.m. The kickoff is at 8:45 and the walk is at 9 a.m. I have a couple of flatties that are walking with me right now. I've got family and friends. So my group is only 7 so far. 10 if you count my children, because I'm making them come and join us as well.
I did too.
But it's like, you will come and you will enjoy this. But it's also just raising awareness for them, so that they can go out in the community when they talk to friends, or if a friend talks to them about their mom's diagnosis or their grandmother or their grandfather, or just letting it be a discussion. We're very open with our kids about talking through things. So that piece, as well as just showing that it's not just a choice that you have to make when you get faced with this bridge that you have to cross. It could be a decision that you have to make at any given notice, or also something that you have to think about in advance if you have the genetic marker, and you're sitting there planning and anticipating it. So I think having kids involved helps to kind of bring it full circle to show that it's everyone's discussion.
I agree with you. I walked with my daughters in Santa Monica last year, and then in New York City in Central Park. And, they're at the time they were 15 and 17. My grandmother had breast cancer. My mom had breast cancer. I had breast cancer. We don't have a gene that's been identified yet, but the family history is deep. And I think it's important for them to be in this environment where it is, they're going to have to get early screenings. And there were so many children at the walks that we went to, both, just all over the country. And And as some of you know, if you've seen the campaign, we have these great shirts with, I didn't bring it in, it's in the room, with the one breasted cancer survivor on The Simpsons. Some ladies wear those shirts and some ladies decide not to wear those shirts and take off their shirt. And it's another level of authenticity that that children looked at, and not in any kind of stigma, but in a, oh, this is part of breast cancer. That's what happens to some. And so it was really this kind of beautiful body positive movement. I had women that had deep flap, which has a lot of scars, more scars than flat it has, and coming up to me, embracing me, crying, seeing themselves and in me, in like, you know, kind of like acknowledging scars. And some of them took their tops off. I'm like, well, I don't know if you're supposed to do that because you actually have reconstructed breasts and I don't. So, but it's, you know, it was a very, you know, it was really celebrating something that I think in the past has tried to be hidden from the culture. And so I love that you're taking your kids with you to walk, and we'll send you some posters. There's like these, you know, great posters that they can walk with as well. So how do you, this is something that comes up a lot with ambassadors. How do you talk to people who don't have breast cancer and who aren't flat, who don't know a lot? Like, how do you explain, like, what is aesthetic flat closure and why is it important, you know, to put it on the menu?
Yeah. So when I start the conversation, it's, you know, typically it's brought up in some way, somebody asking, you know, what is this about? What is this for? Why is this a discussion? And I walk them through the process that typically the route, well, there's no typical route, but there's really two directions that women come to when they're facing a mastectomy, either prophylactic because of a genetic marker, or they're being faced with a cancer diagnosis. And in this moment where they're faced with this decision, their number one concern is their life. I mean, it's crazy, but you're thinking about how you're going to live, and your children and your significant other and your friends, and chemo and radiation and what you're going to have to go through and deal with. And one of the last things down the line is what you're going to look like when it's done. Yes, it's in your head, it's in your mind, you're thinking about it, but you're concerned about keeping yourself alive. And that a majority of the time when women go through this path, it's not even a full discussion that's had with the doctors. It's, hey, here's what we're going to do. And then the discussion starts of reconstruction. And so when I speak with people, I tell them about that journey for women and how the bulk of women are not given the opportunity for aesthetic flat closure. If they want to go down the flat path, they're either criticized or they're told of all the things that could potentially go wrong. You know, you're gonna be disfigured, you're gonna have excess skin, you're gonna have and so
you're not gonna be lovable. Like literally,
no, oh no, of course not. You're not gonna be lovable. You're not going to be a woman. It's like, quit scaring these people. Like,
it's I know that word is really interesting because a lot of surgeons will say, or it's not just surgeons, medical providers, like, I don't want to scare women, so I don't tell them about this. Wait a minute, like, we give birth, we push children
we can't handle it.
We can handle the truth. What we can't handle is you making judgments for us about what are. I mean, there was a woman who surgeon told her, she was sitting with her husband and she needed a unilateral mastectomy. Just said, oh, no, I'm not going for reconstruction. And he said, oh, well, this is going to affect your sex life. And she said, well, how do you know? You never had sex with me.
Yeah.
And I just like, I love that. I love that. It was Melissa Jansen, who has a great one-breasted beauty, and she's on Instagram as well. But I love that she just said that right back to her surgeon. Like, yeah, how do you know? And that's true. Like, you know, with a breast cancer diagnosis and often with ovarian or any kind of gynecological cancer, your sex life is altered. It's not just about the breast. It's a lot about hormone suppression, sometimes losing your hair, the fatigue of radiation, the long-term effects of chemotherapy. It's so many things. And to reduce it to just like if you have boobs or not is really.
But that's what's going to change it.
Yeah.
There's lots of other things that could affect it, but that's for us to deal with. That's not for the surgeon to help us, unless we need hormone replacement therapy, which is okay, let's talk about that. Let's walk through that instead of just, it will happen no matter what if you have aesthetic flat closure.
Right. I think I said hormone replacement therapy, and what I meant to say was suppression, because we actually, it's the opposite of hormone replacement, but women knew what I meant, where you have to suppress your estrogen or block the estrogen receptors. So, which is, can be cataclysmic for some. It really can, just, especially young women. So puts them into instant menopause. So okay, so back to the walk, your walk, can you tell us, how people can find you if they want to join your team? And just to let everybody know, again, to join a team, you do not have to be flat. You don't have to be a breast cancer survivor. You just have to support aesthetic flat closure. So how can people reach out and find you?
Definitely. And you don't even have to donate. Like, we just want to have a group of people come out and talk. So my last name is really strange spelling. The way that I say it is, it's like Beck.com. I'm the only Sarah Beck.com that's out there. So if you find me on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but I can connect you with my walk. You can also find my walk on the Susan G. Komen Northwest Arkansas site, under the Rogers and Ozark walk that's happening on October 8th. I would love for more people to join my team. Like Renee said, we're going to have shirts, we're going to have signs, we're going to have a group of people, and we're going to be out there supporting the cause. I just want it to be on the menu for women. Talking to you, talking to Kimberly, talking to several other women on my path, and then having women reach out to me that I've been friends with for years, that I haven't spoken to in decades, that I went to school with or grade school, that are going through a mastectomy, and just asking about the options. And at the end of the day, my goal is not to have anything pushed to women, but it's to let them have the options and hear all of the pros and cons of each of them, so that they can step back and take the time to make their own decision. And I think that's what all of us want, is just it to be a discussion point for them to have with their doctor, to take back, to speak about with their family, and to think about on their own and make their decision. Because, like you said, we can make hard decisions. My favorite quote is Glennon Doyle, and she always says, we can do hard things. Because it is. It's like, we can do hard things. We can make the decision to go flat, to have implants, to have reconstruction, to wait 10 years. Yeah. I'm currently on a surveillance for ovarian cancer and breast cancer. So I go every 6 months. I get my blood draw. I have my ultrasound. And it's just, that's my decision. That's the decision I'm walking down, because, like you guys, there wasn't a genetic marker. But my family history is so heavy that my doctor was like, hey, let's just watch. Let's just keep ahead of it and wait and see what happens.
Right. So, and then you have all this information that you've gathered, so that if that ever were to happen, hopefully it won't, you're informed, and you'll have your decision. You won't be kind of scrambling. So we can make hard decisions.
We can make hard decisions. And in the meantime, we can educate, or I can educate and help the cause and continue to push it. And that's the goal, is just to make it so that people are aware that it's out there.
Well, I'm excited for your walk. I used to live in Rogers, Arkansas.
I had no idea.
My dad worked for Walmart when there were 8 Walmarts.
Oh, so it's been a while.
8. I haven't been there. My sister was born in Rogers. We lived in Bentonville as well. So I haven't been there in decades. But
it's very different now.
It's very different, and the Ozarks are beautiful. And I love that you guys are bringing this awareness to Arkansas. I think you're going to have a transformative event for people to see this, to see a one-breasted character that's normalized on television, to see people normalizing it walking in person. It's just powerful. So thank you for being part of the team.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I've got plenty of pamphlets to hand out as well. So we're excited. And if you want to join the team, just reach out.
Yeah, she's talking about these 2. We're going to have the brochures, the My Choice Aesthetic Flat Closure brochures with the beautiful Evangelina Jones on there. And your incision pattern guide that Kim Boyle, who also is an illustrator, Boyle's not Boyle, did. So these are amazing. These are patient education brochures. They'll be there. Sarah will be there. T-shirts, posters will be there, and body positivity will be there. So see you soon. Thank you so much,
and it's in October,
Sarah.
So it's perfect weather.
Yes, it'll be great.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks so much. Bye.